So this morning we kind of discuss cultivating the awakening mind, conventional awakening mind in meditation sessions. In the next verses, it explains about how to engage in a practice during the post meditations, and so how to make both meditation and post meditation effective. And as in all the teachings, it says, in order for your meditation session to be effective, you also have to pay attention during the post meditations. If you just let go of your mind without being mindful and just distracted, then during the meditation you will have too many distractions. And so not only we need to focus during the meditation session, but also during the post meditation session as well. And so here it explaining concerning the three objects, three poison and three virtues. So during the post meditations, due to certain circumstances, situations, when we encounter any pleasant object, then normally we tend to be attached to that object. And we encounter any unpleasant objects, we tend to have aversion to, disliking towards that object, aversion towards that object, and that lead to a kind of anger towards that. And then when we encounter more neutral objects, then it's more kind of ignorance. And so due to three different type of objects, when it appears as a pleasant, attractive object, attachment arises. When it appears as unpleasant, unattractive, unpleasant object, then aversion, dislike, anger arises. When it appears kind of more kind of neutral, then the ignorance arises. So that is what it means by concerning three objects, three poisons. Due to three different type of object, then three poisons arises. And when that arises, then immediately we recognize, when you are attached, due to your mindfulness, introspection, then you immediately be aware, I'm attached to that. I'm attached to this object. Or I have aversion to this object, I'm disliking this object, or I have anger to that object, or I have ignorance. So through mindfulness introspection, being aware immediately, as soon as possible. As immediately once you are aware, then trying to transform it into something virtuous, something positive. So by recognizing when you are under any of those delusions, anger, attachment, ignorance, we are aware of that, and we are aware that this is source of our suffering, pain, and then we use that opportunity to understand and feel for those others who have similar problems. Nobody wants to get angry, but then just like ourselves, when we are angry, there are people who are upset and angry due to certain cause and conditions. If we talk the anger as an example, then immediately I'm not only one who is angry and upset and suffering due to that, but there are so many other sentient beings in the world. Due to certain cause and conditions, they are upset, angry, and due to anger, they are also experiencing suffering and pain, just like myself. And may they never have to experience such anger in the future. So we make such a prayer dedications. May all their anger and cause of anger ripen on myself. May all their anger and the result of those anger and the cause of anger, may I be able to take on myself. By me experiencing the anger, may they never have to experience the anger. May they never have to experience the result of anger. May they experience and cultivate the virtues that is free from anger. Non-anger, the virtues of non-anger, the virtues that is free from anger. May they develop loving kindness, compassion to counter the anger. By encountering loving kindness, compassion, by cultivating loving kindness, compassion, and encountering the anger, may they develop, the fully awakened state. May they be able to. So then we use that virtues in three ways like that. Same when we have. I give the example of the anger, and you use the same in when you see the attachment. Same with the ignorance. Okay, and then if we want to do the Tonglen practice, then again you can visualize, imagine taking on the anger and the result of the anger, the cause of anger as you breathe in the form of dark, heavy darkness, and then enter through your nostril, destroying your self-centeredness attitude, and then transforming your selfish, self-centeredness attitude into something loving kindness, compassion, and then you are filled with loving kindness, compassion, and then out of that, when you breathe out, you think, visualize, sending all the positive goodness, all the virtues in the form of that white light. The moment that person is touched by that, they cultivate loving kindness, compassion instead of anger. And therefore their mind is calm, peaceful, and not being disturbed by the anger. So, and that is where we can use, with, of course here giving example of three-man delusion, but we can use this with all different emotions. Same, When there is fear, for example, when we have fear, recognize we have fear, and then recognize you have fear, and then also recognize we are the not only one who is full of that fear, worry, anxiety, panicking, whatever those are happening. Be aware there are so many other sentient like ourselves, and may they be free from that, using that by recognizing their problem, by understanding, feeling their problem, then we use due to our own experience, then we make the prayer for them to be free from that emotions. By me experiencing this fear, may they never have to experience. May I be able to experience on behalf of them, so that they don't have to experience. May all their fear ripen over myself. May I be able to take their fear, and may they be free from all the fears. And may they have free from fear, may they have confidence instead of fear, calm mind, confidence, and through that may they be able to develop all the realizations and achieve fully enlightenment. And so we can this give you a kind of tools, technique that you can use to any kind of emotions, any kind of negative emotions. Anxiety, for example, when you have anxiety, we can use same thing, same way. when you have sense of low self-esteem, same thing, you can use that. So basically, whatever negative emotion that we might be experiencing, being aware and then transforming that into something positive to cultivate more loving kindness, compassion, to using that as a tools to really connect with others who are experiencing similar, even worse, to be able to relate with them, to be able to connect with them, to be able to understand and feel their pain. Through that understanding and feeling of their pain, then cultivating love and compassion. In that way then, even though it's unpleasant, but we have changed, transformed into something positive, something very meaningful. And when you are able to do that, you know, then whatever happened, even though it might be a little bit discomfort and unpleasant at the moment, but then we use it for a much more high purpose. So that is kind of the sequence is slightly different than what I have in Tibetan. The one I have the versions. The instructions to be followed, in short, is to be mindful of practice in general. So, in all the time, whether we are sleeping, whether we are eating, whether we are walking, whether we are standing, whether we are meditating, whether we are communicating with someone, throughout 24 hours, whatever we are doing, always being very mindful. Mindful of our actions, physical actions, mindful of our speech, mindful of our thoughts. Constantly, with our introspection mind and mindfulness mind, we're constantly being aware. And then the moment we recognize, we have those negative thoughts, we try to transform into something positive, as I mentioned. Same thing, the moment you notice you are engaging in something unhealthy speech, and you try to change it, try to transform it. Maybe you have thought of saying something very harsh words, suddenly you recognize and you stop from saying it. Or you have already said it, and you notice it, and then if you need to apologize, if you need to say, I didn't mean that, try to do that, try to change that. And same with our physical behavior. The moment you are noticing that you might engage in some unhealthy physical behavior, we try to refrain from this, stop that. The moment, if we have already done it, then we try to kind of change it. We try to, whatever that we need actions to kind of make things less painful and less harmful for others and oneself. We try to take those actions. And then we notice, we have said something because we are not mindful enough, something harsh word, which you don't mean, but you lose your mind, and in that moment you say something harsh word, recognizing that is what you have done. And then also knowing you are the not only one, also there are so many sentient beings, due to the being the slave of their own delusions, like myself, delusions, they get out of control. They say things, even they don't mean to say that, just like what you did now. And then saying, by me this no one has to experience such a behavior or speech of using a harsh word. By me having used that, no one had to use that in the future. By me experience, may I be able to use on behalf of all others so they don't use it. May I be able to take all the conditions, potential, karma of them using a harsh word on myself. And then wishing them, may they have the positive, kind speech. Through the kind speech, may they be able to develop their heart and achieve enlightenment. So we use the technique explained in 24 hours whenever, in all the time. By taking these words to heart in all the activities. And then, in order to remind us all of that, that's the practice of loving kindness, compassion, the taking and giving, the practice of lojong, mind training. In order to remind us, then we try to recite that all the time. Sometimes you can have slogan of those in bathroom, maybe in your bedroom, maybe in your living room. Every time you see it, it reminds you to be more mindful, to be more compassionate, and then maybe you can even have your phone. You can wear that. It reminds you, several times a day. Alerts and remind you of that several times a day. So using, for example, in terms of the Tonglen, like there are many different versions of those prayers, verses, like Nagarjuna's in his precious garland. May all others suffering and pain, may all others suffering and negative karma ripen over myself. May all my happiness ripen on them. We can use that. Or there is similar verses in Shantideva, we can use that. Or in even these verses here, there is verses in many of the Lojong verses. Also in Guru Puja, there is not bless me to Lama to Majudo Madutata like delegation to please bless me to be able to please, I don't know exactly how the exact English translation, but requesting the Guru to bless us to take all the suffering May all the suffering and cause of suffering of others ripen on myself, and may all my happiness and virtues ripen on others. By giving to them, may they be happy. And so those different verses of taking and giving, we kind of memorize that, and we recite that time to time, and we use that as a tool. And then you can have also to remind at different places. So the prayers, like such, are a tool to reflect on the meaning of that. Sometimes they use this example of like the stick. Someone who is old cannot walk properly without relying on some kind of helper, walking stick. It's the walking stick like the wood, and the person who is relying on that to walk is the meaning. So we rely on the word to reflect on the meanings, and so those are the ones to remind of that. Then training in ultimate awakening. So as I mentioned, the sequence is slightly different here. When stability has been attained, impart the secret teachings. So here is saying, when we have developed certain stability or concentration, shamatha, calm abiding, then on the basis of that calm abiding, shamatha of stability, then you develop the special insight. Or the wisdom relies on emptiness, and so the secret teaching is here referred into the teaching on emptiness. And again, sometimes it can be also known as a secret, because in order to understand and not be fearful of teaching on emptiness, you need certain amount of merit. Because sometimes when people hear about teaching of emptiness, people are afraid, or when they reflect, contemplate on that, become fearful. Or sometimes you can become not being able to understand properly. You can fall in the nihilism of not being able to understand properly. And so in order to understand it properly without falling in the nihilism or without being so fearful, you need certain right conditions. And so here, consider all phenomena as like a dream. So all the object of your mind, okay? All the object of your subject mind, all of those phenomena that appear as external to your object, to your mind's subject, looking all of those objects like a dream, even though all of those objects, when it appear to our mind, whether it is our sense consciousness, whether it is our mental consciousness, different objects, whatever they appear, even though they appear to us as existing objectively from its own side, truly existing as a real, But if you analyze it, there's nothing that exists truly. There's nothing that exists objectively from its own side. If you try to find within each of those objects, you cannot find within the object. And so therefore the appearance and the way thing exists does not concord. The appearance is false, deceptive, because that is not how thing exists. So therefore it's like a dream. In the dream, you might have dream of someone, or you might have dream of winning, lottery. It's just a dream, deceptive, false. You didn't really win a lottery, okay? So it was just a dream, not true. Same way, everything, even though they appear to our subject mind as real, as truly, nothing exists. When you analyze it with critical analysis, when you investigate with critical analysis, there's nothing that exists truly or real. And so therefore, everything's like, it's like a dream, So meditating on that. Even though it appears to us when we think of self or me, especially when we, let's say, when someone humiliate us, abuse us, when someone accuse us, all kind of allegations where you have done nothing, then there is strong sense of I or me, which you feel that I have been abused, insulted, humiliated. There is very strong of me or I or self. If you try to, there's a sense of real I there, true I. But if you try to find where is that I that you feel so strongly, within each of your aggregate, within your physical aggregate, within your mental aggregate, you cannot find, you cannot pinpoint. So therefore, if something is real, the more truly investigation you do, the more clear it has to be. Okay, for example, if someone is coming with some news, okay, or if the news is true, the more investigation, the further investigation, it has to be more clear and clear. But if you investigate more further, then it becomes more and more unclear. That means there is no truth in that. Similarly, that is how we feel. There is real set me, I. If there is real set me as it appear to us that moment, then when we investigate within our aggregates or outside aggregate, then we should be able to pinpoint, see, it become more and more clear. But when you try to do it, then it becomes more and more unclear. You cannot really pinpoint, either within the physical aggregate, within the mental aggregates. And so clearly that means it is not truly existing, real existence. And something which is not truly existence, it appears to exist as truly. And so therefore, that objects, and that the way they exist and the way it appears is not same. The way of appearance and the mode of existence not same. Disconcord, and so therefore is like a dream, not real, not true as it appears. So therefore, the reason why it appears to us, is due to our imprint from the past. due to our strong imprint of our past ignorance. Due to that, then there is appearance of that. To our mistaken mind, there is appearance of that. To our mistaken mind, there is appearance of that. So when you do that analysis, not only the person. So then, how does the person exist? If you cannot find within any of the aggregate, when you analyze in that kind of critical analysis, you cannot pinpoint and find. But of course, there is a I, which is, doing functioning on conventional level, and the I which sleeping, eating, listening, walking, which experience suffering due to certain cause and condition, which experience pain, happiness due to certain cause and condition. So then when you try to find, you cannot pinpoint with any of its basis or the aggregates, but at the same time, how does it exist only on merely level? It's merely on the merely level of imputations. So that is how things exist. Even though things exist on the basis of merely imputation, merely labeling, but the way it appears to our mind is as though existing from its own side objectively. Therefore, that is false, because that is not how things exist. That is false. So therefore, it's like dream. Okay. So, do you need to? Some of you need to take some tea. Maybe tea. If you take some tea, maybe it can wake you up. Then next, examine the nature of unborn awareness. Then when you analyze it that way, then you come to some kind of understanding, realization, all the object that appear to our mind is not truly existing, and they are like a dream. But what about the subject itself? The mind to which the objects appear to that, all the other phenomena or the object that appear to the mind, the subject, is the mind, the subject, truly existence? Then say, even that mind is not truly existing. So therefore, examine the nature of unborn awareness. And so there, even though the nature of the mind itself, the subject, the mind itself, is also not truly existent. Not truly existent, not inherently existence. If you try to find, again, same way, the way we do analysis to the external object that appear to the mind, same analysis or critical analysis, within the consciousness, the mind, the awareness, does it has color? Does it has shape? The mind itself. Does it have size? Is it tangible? Physically tangible? It is something that abstracts physically. All of that. What is that awareness? What is that awareness? Whatever awareness when we talk about certain particular mind or awareness, we are talking about particular subject that apprehend the object, whether mistakenly or unmistakably, but we are talking about subject when we talk about mind or awareness. And such any kind of awareness is made of many moments. Many moments make that particular awareness of mind. Then if you see, is this moment that consciousness, is this moment this consciousness, if you break into the moment of them, each of those moments is none. Each part of those moments is known. So again, you cannot pinpoint and say this is it. When we talk about moment, we are talking about time, past, present, future. The moment of that awareness is gone. The futures is to appear as a consciousness, as awareness. What is there is only the present. Even the present have many moments. First moment, second moment, third moment. Even the present, the first moment is gone. Third moment is yet to come. The second moment is that the very moment it manifested or it arises, that very moment is disintegrated, is gone. The very moment it manifested, arises, that very moment is also gone. So even the present, the middle of that present moment, even that the moment you say this is it, is gone, is no more there. So you cannot really pinpoint. So therefore, you cannot talk about the mind being born or arising due to cause and condition if the mind is inherently existence. If it's inherently existent, truly existent, it becomes independent existent. If it's independent existent, it does not depend on other factors. Otherwise, it wouldn't be independent. Otherwise, it would be depending, arising. Something which is independent or inherently existent cannot depend on other factors for its arising or its existence. And so therefore, if the mind is inherently or independently existent, then it doesn't depend on its preceding cause and conditions. If it doesn't depend on preceding cause and condition, then we cannot talk about the mind due to cause and condition, particular awareness, particular mind being manifesting, arising, being born. And if something is not being produced or born or arise, we cannot talk about that lasting. Sometimes something that which is not born and something that is not last, we cannot talk, that's disintegrating. We talk about something disintegrating or decaying of something which has been born, something which has been produced. If there was no production from the very beginning, we cannot talk that being decaying and disintegrating. Something which is not being produced by cause and condition cannot be destroyed. The reason why it is decaying, disintegrating, is because the cause that produced the production itself is decaying and disintegrating. Because it is the same cause that gives production as well as decaying. Of course, there are other factors which can accelerate the decaying, disintegrating. But actually, the very cause that produce is the very cause that is cause for decaying and disintegrating. And so therefore, so when there is no productions or being produced or arise or burn, then you cannot talk of. And when you analyze into that, there's such kind of analysis, then you understand even the mind, the subject, is also not truly existent, inherently existent. It's not independently existent at all. So that is where, so then, examine the nature of unborn awareness. Also, in one way, there is no beginning to the mind, the subject mind. So, since there is no beginning, then we cannot talk about that being born from something. And so if it is not born, then we cannot also talk about decaying or disintegrating. So that is... The remedy itself is released in its own place. So then we think, okay, the object is not truly existence or inherent existence. It's like a dream. Also the subject, the mind itself, is also not inherent existence, not truly existence. It's like a dream. Then what about the antidote, the emptiness itself? So the emptiness itself. And again, also emptiness itself, also if you analyze this, also the emptiness itself does not exist inherently and truly. The ultimate nature of the mind itself, not only the mind, but the ultimate nature of the mind itself, the emptiness of the mind itself, does not exist inherently, independently. Because without the object, there cannot be emptiness or ultimate truth of that object. If there is no cup, we cannot talk about the ultimate nature of cup. We cannot talk about emptiness of cup. If there is no cup, there is no emptiness of cup. The emptiness of cup is very dependent on the cup. And so, even the emptiness very much depends on other factors. So when we do that kind of analysis, then also there is nothing to hold on, even the emptiness. So first, we have holding, grasping on the object of our mind. When you do that analysis, that breakdown, there's nothing to hold. Then we think, there is something to hold, the subject. Also, when you have the same object, also that is breakdown, and then you find there is no object, no subject to hold on. Then very analysis, the very emptiness, the very that, we think there is something to hold on. We think that is the ultimate. That is the absolute. And so here, even that is not absolute. Even that is like a dream. Even that is like... And so then, even the antidote itself, the remedy or antidote itself is released in its own place. So when you do that analysis, then also there is nothing to hold on, even the remedy, even the antidote, the emptiness itself. Or another way of putting that is, if we think, when you talk about the emptiness of all the objects of the mind, and the emptiness of the subject, the mind itself, then when you say if everything is empty, then maybe there is no functioning of cause and effect. We might think there is no functioning of cause and effect if everything is empty. Such misconception can arise, and then that kind of misconception can arise. And so then if you kind of analyze this and try to see the very nature of the ultimate nature of the mind itself, not only the object, the mind, but even the very ultimate nature of the mind itself, if you try to analyze, if you look at that, then all this misconception, all this thought will be released in itself by its own place. Just like it's explaining the waves of the bubbles, the waves, all of them arises from the water, from the oceans, and they dissolve into themselves. The bubble dissolves into the water itself. The wave dissolves into the ocean itself. It arises from the ocean and it dissolves into itself. Same way, all those conceptions arises from the mind, and also they dissolve into itself. So such misconception and conception arises, and then when we look at the very true ultimate nature, when you look at the very ultimate nature of the mind itself, all of those thoughts will dissolve into that mind itself, and thereby being released, it being released in its own place, arise from the mind and being released, dissolved into the mind itself. So here, up to here, we use some kind of analysis, to understand. We use kind of reasoning, logic, analysis to understand the ultimate nature of the mind and other phenomena. So with that kind of reasoning and analysis, then we come to certain certainty that lead to certain certainty that the object, subject, all phenomena lack truly existing, inherently existing. 100% certainty in that. And when you come to that 100% certainty that nothing really exists truly, inherently, independently, then without any further analysis, then we have to try to remain in that state of the emptiness, the mere absence of truly existing or inherently existence, remaining in that as much as so. Then not analyzing but stabilizing. So the first 3 words is like an analytical meditation. You do the analytical meditations to come to certain certainty. Once you come to that certainty, then you don't analyze anymore. You try to stabilize, remain in that state as long as possible. Stabilizing meditations. So that is where it says, place the essence of the path on the natural basis of all. So here, the natural basis of all. Sometimes the basis of all can refer to different things according to context, according to different contexts. From some of the school, like Siddhamadra school, they speak about eight different kind of consciousness, and then the eight consciousness, which they call the basis of all. That particular, but in Nagarjuna's and others middle way schools, they have no idea of this eight consciousness. They always talk about six consciousness, and but then sometimes you find a term like that, mind basis of all. In basis of all here refer to the emptiness. Sometimes, because from emptiness everything arises. Is that so? Is that so? Does everything arises from the emptiness?
Actually, like you said, like this cup, the cup is arising from emptiness, but then that's the ultimate nature, like we said, but the ultimate nature of the recognition of that is emptiness itself, like recognizing it. So, like, but you mentioned that what I understood was that like both are passing phenomena. It's like both are not, they are not truly inherent nature, independent of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're saying the emptiness is also dependent on this nature of arising, and
Mm-hmm.
they're both
Depending arising to each other. Yes.
That's what I understood.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that is where, when you don't understand, not understanding emptiness correctly, then sometimes people have mistaken as non-existence, and so therefore they fall to nihilism. Therefore, if that is so, then they say that nothing exists. But Nagarjuna, he was by other schools kind of refute him, saying, then if everything is empty, then there is no possible of suffering and the cause of suffering. There is no possible of path that lead to liberations, and liberation not possible. And then if that is not possible, then there's no point in practicing and meditating all this kind of. And Nagarjuna answered and defended, because of emptiness, everything is possible. If it is not emptiness, nothing is possible. So then that is where he made from. When you talk about emptiness, Nagarjuna, he is saying empty of independent or inherent existence. Because everything is empty of independent inherent existence, therefore everything is dependent arising. Because everything is dependent arising, therefore everything is possible. If everything is not dependent arising, independent, then it becomes static, permanent. Nothing can be changed. Therefore nothing can be possible. But because it is emptiness, therefore it means it's empty. Emptiness here meaning empty of dependent arising, independent or inherent existence. Therefore everything is dependent arising, depending on other factors, cause, condition factors. Because of that, then everything is possible. From that point of view, then everything arises from the emptiness.
Like so it's one of the inherent characteristics of the existence is emptiness. That's how it becomes inherent characteristic of existence. Even like emptiness is, but it can be fundamentally boiled down to one of the characteristics of every phenomena, object, everything. So there is, because of emptiness, is the fundamental characteristics of.
Yeah, it's a fundamental or ultimate characteristic or nature of all the things. Yes.
So it's just English having its issues. It rises with emptiness, but not out of emptiness.
Okay. Within. Okay.
With
Yeah. I have no idea about the English. So basically because of emptiness, everything is possible. Because of dependent arising, everything is possible. Okay.
So to go back to your point, there's when you meditate on emptiness, or like if you're at a certain level and you're gonna do like tell me if I'm wrong. When you're at a certain level and if you're gonna do imagine yourself as the deity, then you do dissolve everything. You see everything as being dependent, arising, and you see that it doesn't exist, like, because there is, if you take this cause away, then this, and you dissolve it into emptiness, so then you do arise out of emptiness. So that's, I mean, maybe there isn't English, but like that's like literally the visualization is that you dissolve everything because it's all dependent arising, so nothing exists without another cause, but then you are able to regenerate yourself as the deity because of that, and I mean, I don't understand the finite details because I don't have that realization, but the wording is, I think, necessary because that's how you regenerate yourself as the deity. Is that, like, that's when they say, like, because of emptiness, like...
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The English is my not so from emptiness, out of emptiness, within the emptiness, out that part I don't know. But definitely, as you mentioned, that we dissolve the ordinary beings into emptiness, and then meditation on that emptiness, and then the wisdom that realizes that emptiness manifests into the deity. So normally in Tantra, that is one of the kind of, you do that. So, yes.
It's okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm confused about nature and arising from causes and conditions. Like, one wouldn't say Buddha nature arises from causes and conditions. Buddha nature exists, but nothing's truly existent. I get a little confused there.
Not everything depends on cause and condition, but it depends on other factors.
Such as?
Whether we say Buddha nature or emptiness of the cup. Okay?
So
the emptiness of cup depends on other factors such as cup. Without the cup, there is no emptiness of cup. Even though we wouldn't say the cup is the cause of emptiness.
Right.
But for the emptiness of cup to exist, it has to depend on other factors such as cup.
I don't know how to apply that to a concept such as Buddha nature.
Same thing, Buddha nature, when you talk about Buddha nature, there's two ways of looking. The ultimate nature of the mind is Buddha nature, or conventional nature of the mind. And again, if we talk about the ultimate nature of the mind, then again, without the mind, there wouldn't be ultimate nature of the mind, there wouldn't be the emptiness of the mind. So the emptiness of the mind, the ultimate nature of the mind, the emptiness, is very much dependent on the mind. Without that mind, it wouldn't be, that emptiness or ultimate nature would be not possible. And if we talk about the conventional nature of Buddha nature, the clarity, the luminous, and the clarity, and the awakening, awareness part of the consciousness, clear light mind, let's say, like clear light mind, Again, that is depending on it preceding cause and conditions. It's preceding moment of clear light. Even though it's clear light, it is momentary. It's like it's the same. It's some kind of moment, but it's constantly kind of changing in that way. It's not static. So therefore, it's dependent on preceding.
It doesn't arise on the basis of causes and conditions, but it's affected by causes and conditions?
No, the conventional, like let's say clear light mind is dependent on cause and conditions. It's preceding cause and condition clear light mind. Just as my thought is continuity of my previous thought. And that is a thought. So my present moment clear mind is continuity of my clear mind of this morning. And this mind, my clear mind is continuity of yesterday clear light mind. That is continuity of the others. So my this morning clear light mind is a cause of my present clear light mind.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
So does there anything which is non-changing, permanent, is there?
Yeah. In the Buddhist, in Buddhist studies, the kind of the phenomena in general, they kind of categorize in three groups. You know, impermanent objects or phenomena, permanent object and phenomena, and not impermanent, maybe sometimes permanent, impermanent in two. And if we do three, is the physical matter, okay? There is one physical matter. First, there is permanent and impermanent objects. And within the impermanent, then there is physical matter, non-physical subject, the mind, and then there's one which is neither the physical matter, neither the mind. And so that is how. And so, for example, space is giving example permanent. Okay, space is giving example permanent, and even the emptiness is giving example permanent. Okay, so that is why it is saying it's not dependent on cause and condition, even though it depends on factors, other factors, but it's not dependent on cause. It's not like the cup is changing into the emptiness, unlike like seed changing into a plant. Do you get it? Like that is substantial cause changing into the effect. The seed changing into the plant, transforming into the plant. If the cup does not transform into the emptiness, and there is nothing, any object that transforms into the space. Space is just mere absence of something touchable and abstractions. Of course, due to changing here and there, maybe I have too many things here, so the space becomes small. Okay? And then I open a lot of things, and then there's more bigger space. So in that senses, there is changes. We can have small space, big space, or all of that. But still, like, it is not like the object are transforming into a space itself. So there is nothing that transforms them in that way. So the space is given as a. So it is permanent, but dependent arising. Depending on other factors. Same with the emptiness. Yeah?
What does permanent mean?
Permanent means, not changing by changing cause and conditions.
So it's kind of like a law or a rule, right?
Yeah, it's just like the law of gravity, That's how things are.
So would karma be permanent?
No, karma can be changed by changing cause and conditions.
The law of karma.
Law of karma doesn't is. I don't know. The law of karma permanent is the karma itself is not permanent. But the law of the karma itself is interesting. I've never thought about that. The law of gravity, is it permanent? I don't know.
It-
Something to think.
Is the law of gravity permanent though, or is that a cause and condition based on what we've created in what the environment that we live in? Like in other world systems, is there gravity?
I have no idea that too.
Because gravity's dependent on mass.
What is the how does the gravity function in other part of the apart from our world? Whether that apply every planet, every universe, or whether it is apply only this universe, I don't know. But we talk about law within this context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't know
Okay.
personally. So anyway, so that whether it's permanent, whether it's impermanent, all of those phenomena are dependent arising. That is the thing. So when we talk, they give you this, the space. When you talk about space, even though the space cannot be kind of, because all other things, impermanent things, they depend on cause and conditions. It depends on its parts. It depends on the mind consciousness that impute. But permanent, we cannot talk about depending on cause and conditions, but we can talk about depending on its parts and the mind who is impute. And so even in terms of space, there is the directional part, the space of south, the space of north, the space of east, west. So when we talk about space, whether it's very small space or big space, still there is that. So that whole space to exist, it depends on its parts. The northern parts, the southern parts, its parts.
It's related to something. When you say northern part is related to something you take as a reference, and that's how you define it. But that's but that would be conventions.
Yes, of course. When we are talking about existing, then we are talking about conventional, how it exists. But when you talk about dependent arising, we are talking about conventional world. Yeah, dependent arising. When you talk about dependent arising, that's we're talking about how unconventionally how it exists, and the thing exists is by depending on other factors, its parts, its cause and condition in some cases or most of the cases. Yeah.
So in this case, that the space will become in a way is ultimate, but then convention, like we say that okay, there's not, because just to define, get our orientation right, is in north south relative to me, that Canada is north to me, Mexico is south to me, but from Canada, America would be, so it's like
Yes. Of course, that is why there is nothing which is absolute. All is relative. Okay. Something is big in relation to something small. Something is small in relation to something big. In relation to another thing which is big, in relation to something which is bigger, it will be small. This will be big in relation to something which is smaller. And so that will be the same with the directions, all of that. So even the space is not ultimate or absolute. So nothing exists absolutely ultimately. All it exists on conventional or relative level. Even the emptiness does not exist on ultimate absolute level. Even that exists on conventional relative level.
So basically, you're trying to say don't get caught up in any of the concepts. They're all dreamlike at the end of the day. But it helps us, but to make our progress. But when you go in the further detail, or this will all break down, and it's not
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
It's all
And that the whole thing is that the way it is presented here in most texts, first it breaks down the object of our attachment, the mind. And then we are not attached to that, but then maybe we might be attached to the subject, the mind itself. That is also breaking down. So then there is nothing to grasp on or hold on. Then we think the method to do that, the practice itself, the emptiness itself is the ultimate, and that also breaks down. And so basically is to let go of any clinging, grasping to any object. Even the enlightenment, the path that leads to enlightenment. Ultimately, we should have to let it go of clinging and grasping to any of that. And that is only through that we can really achieve the enlightenment. If we have still some clinging and grasping to the result, the enlightenment, then we are stuck there again. And if we are clinging and grasping to the path, also we will be stuck there.
So basically, you're saying like these are all steps of a ladder. So as you are climbing, so let go of the other ladder. So keep on climbing. Once it is gone, then once you climbed all the way on the top of the roof, and let the ladder go also.
Yes. The idea, the concept, the dualistic views, all are tools to go beyond dualistic. Once you reach beyond dualistic to non-dualistic, then those are not required. Concepts are not required. The enlightened beings, they can communicate without any concept, without any ideas, without all of that. But for us who are not there, we need those tools to understand how to go beyond concept, how to go beyond dualistic. Yeah. So here is a place that isn't in the path to the nature of the basis all. So when we meditate on the ultimate nature of the mind, so without any more further analyze, you just try to be aware and watch and aware of the clarity of the mind. While there is clarity of the mind, at the same time it is empty. The ultimate nature of the mind is empty. While it is empty, there is clarity. So to be able to see that emptiness and clarity at the same time and remain in that state without further analysis. So trying to come to that point, and when you come to that point without any analysis, you try to stabilize your mind and just experience in being in that moment and experiencing that. And then next is how to engage in the practice of its ultimate awakening mind during the post session. So here he talked about in meditation how to go about, first meditating on the emptiness of external phenomena, then emptiness of the subject, the mind, then the emptiness or emptiness itself, and through analysis. And once through that analysis, you come to certain understanding, certainty. And when you come to that certain understanding, certainty, then without any further analysis, you try to experience and remain in that state as long as possible. And then when you started to, when you're in that state, when your mind is not so very stable, thoughts started to arise, your mind started to get distractions, all of that, then again you can go from the very beginning and again do the same analysis, bring to that kind of same conclusion, some same certainty, conclusions, and then when you are in that again without any analysis, then again you remain there. So in that way you try to apply both analytical or stabilizing meditations. First you do the analysis, analytical meditation, analysis to come to certain conclusions, certain certainty, and then once you come to that certainty, then you don't do analysis, you just experience it, remain in that. And that is same with all different meditation. We can always practice those two practice, analytical meditation and stabilizing meditation together. Even with loving kindness, compassion, through certain contemplations, you try to, by using certain examples, imaginations, certain reasoning, logics, you try to bring out your sense of love and compassion to kind of manifesting of love and compassion, to bring up that. Once you have that feeling of love and compassion, then you don't do, you just experience that and just try to remain without any further investigations. And then again you do the investigations, analysis to bring up that, and again when you have that, then you try to remain in that state without investigating. And in that, and we do that most of the meditation, except for when you are trying to develop shamatha. Of course, when you are trying to develop shamatha, meditative concentration, then you don't use analysis. Just try to keep your object focus. Yes.
So your purpose of doing the analytical meditation is like, and when experiencing is that like, so that you can get behind the analysis, like that will become more of an experience than
Yes.
Then keep on based on that experience again do further analysis if you need to go.
Yes. Yes.
So because initially we have to start with analysis.
Absolutely. You know. Yeah. Now, especially. As I mentioned, when you do shamatha, when you don't do the analysis, but in all other meditation, you need to do some kind of analysis, completion, to reach to a very strong experience or reach to a strong feeling. And then once we have that feeling, then we try to remain and experience and keep that feeling as much as possible. And because again, that will not remain us for further, then again we have to do that. It's like until it becomes spontaneous and natural, then you don't require that analysis anymore much, until we do that, because through analysis we can come to certain conclusion and certain feeling, but that will remain for a little while. It doesn't remain all the time at the very beginning. Again we do the same kind of analysis, bring to that mind, again experience that, be in that moment, again that, and slowly then it requires less effort, less analysis with the time, and then it becomes more and more stronger, experiential, and then slowly very spontaneous, natural.
So you're trying to say that these are all when you're saying the experience or feeling, you're saying like they're all basically as a mental state, like mental state of compassion.
Yes.
Curiosity. So develop that mental state, and so then you can experience that mental state. So then it becomes part of your nature, and then you know how it feels like.
Yes. Then you don't need to use any reasoning, logic, or analysis to cultivate love and compassion when you see suffering of sentient beings, immediately it is there, without any effort, effortlessly. At the moment, it's not happening.
But initially we have to do it.
Yes,
Generate it.
yes. Initially, definitely, we need to do the analysis. Analysis is very crucial part of that. The analyze, for example, maybe I cannot develop compassion with someone because I don't see the suffering, and because the suffering is such a subtle, it's not so obvious. So I have to analyze and see how he or she is suffering because of their delusion, even though physically they are not experiencing any health issue, even though maybe they don't have any other financial situation, they don't have relations. So externally it's just perfect. This is just imperfect. But if you go further than that, if you analyze what's going in their mind, unhappy, dissatisfied, jealousy, pride, anger, all of that, then you can see the pain and suffering beyond that external. And that you have to think, because it is not obvious. You can't just feel that way. And so when you analyze that, then you begin to see, even though they don't have these problems, those kind of suffering, that they have another level of suffering, emotional suffering, mental sufferings. When you see that with that kind of analyzed contemplation, then you can feel compassion for them. And so that is why that kind of analysis is needed and important. So then here, during the 4 sessions, then how to meditate. In the period between the sessions, be a creator of illusions. So it is said, when we reach a high level of realization, for example, when you have direct realization of emptiness, when you become an Arya, when you reach that path of seeing, and when you have direct realization of emptiness, in the meditator, in their meditative equipoise, that only thing that appears in that meditation is just emptiness, nothing else. There is no appearance of truly existing objects. There is no appearance of subject and object. The dualistic of subject and object, dualistic of truly existing appearance. There is no object of even the conventional objects. If you are meditating on emptiness of the mind, there is not even appearance of the conventional mind. What the only appearance that is there is just emptiness, just emptiness, non-dualistic, no other appearance at all in that meditation sessions. Okay, and because it's so strong in that meditation sessions, everything, the only thing that appears is just empty.
Because you're seeing the rising and falling very quickly, arising and passing away very quickly, or no, or it like that's the reason you're seeing emptiness, because
of course you can use the falling and reasons, passing, that also one, but as I was explaining previously, when you try to search for the I, or when you are trying to find what is aggregates my body, even within the part which make my body, my face is not my body, my arms is not my body. I cannot find my body within that, within my hands, within my torso, within my thigh, within my leg, within my feet, within any part of that. So body is just merely imputed on the basis of those parts coming. And then not only that, even the face. What is face? Is the eye face? Is the nose face? Is the nose? Again, you cannot find what is the face there. The face is only merely imputed on the basis of all these parts. And then even the nose, Which those different parts. Nose. What is nose? It's the skin. It's the bone. It's the muscles, nerve, and each of them again. The nose is again merely labeled as a nose on the basis of those. And so when you do that kind of analysis to yourself, your aggregates, your mind, everything dissolves. And what remains is just empty. And so you try to remain in that empty spaces. So then that is how what they do. So when they come out of that meditation state, then everything's, of course, then you see, you hear, you smell, when you touch, you feel it, all these sensations, mind arises, manifest. But then because of your power of your meditations in that, everything appears more like an illusion, more like a dream. At the moment to us it appears real, true. Every object that I see with my eyes, everything I hear with my ear, everything I smell with my nose, everything I taste with my tongue, everything I touch, everything feels so real to us. But when that meditation comes out of that, everything, there is appearance, all of that, but instead of real, there is appearance more like an illusion, more like a dream state.
Like you can, like how we are watching a movie, we know that we are watching a movie, but
Yes. So therefore, because everything appears like an illusion, like a dream, so even though negative things appear, you don't get so upset about it. Because if there is appearance more like a dream state. Even though there is an appearance of pleasant objects, you don't get so attached to it because it's less real. It appears less real and more like an illusion, more like a dream. And so in that way, then your aversions, your attachments, your liking and disliking all become less strong, less intense. And so that become more natural. But for us, it's not natural. Okay? At the moment, we haven't reached that point.
So is then, or can the experience of direct perception of emptiness be compared to a complete lack of imputation?
Complete lack of imputations? No.
Okay.
No. So then when you have the while you cannot, so while you do it and everything break down and then there is mere empty, mere absence of truly existence, and that you remain in that, and but then but at the same time our direct experience, so there is self which experience that experience. Okay, we cannot deny that there is something which experience that experience, someone who is meditating and experiencing that experience. So then how does it exist? Then only on merely imputations, then you may begin to see how things exist. They exist, but only on the mere imputations, not so real as it appeared to us. And so that is,
So it's all imputation.
yeah, all imputations.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not lack of imputation, but it's all imputed, merely on imputed level. So that is, so here, because we don't have that kind of direct experience at the moment, so everything does not appear to us as an illusion, dream at the moment. So the training is, even though they appear real, we have to remind in our mind they are like illusions. Training our life, reminding ourselves they are like an illusion, they are like a dream. You see a beautiful object and then you see, oh, it is just like illusions. you see something very unpleasant, which kind of make you very upset and angry, then you remind, oh, the very persons or the very situations that is annoying me, upsetting me, just like illusions. And if you remind yourself it's like illusion, and if you are how strong convinced you are of that, then it will be less annoying, less it affect you less negatively. And so that is how yes.
So Geshe, so why do you say like an illusion instead of an illusion?
It is, in generally speaking, on conventional level, there is two reality, dream state and awake state. So we have to differentiate that. We cannot say awake state is dream state. So it is dreamlike. Do you get it? On conventional level. If you go ultimate level, then everything is like a dream. But on conventional level, we have dream state and awakened state. And so here, even the awakened state is like a dream state, but not a dream state on conventional level. So that is where we have to, if we say it's dream, it is illusions, then we cannot differentiate awakened state and dream state. We cannot talk about someone is dreaming or someone is not dreaming. If everything is dream state. But of course, sometimes in some teachings, there is explanations as given as everything is dream, everything is illusions. But like as it said here in many of those, it will explain as like a dream, like an illusion, instead of saying illusions. Itself. In conventional, because we are talking from conventional world, and in conventional there is illusion, non-illusion. There is a dream state and awake state. And so therefore, even though it's awake state, but it's like a dream state. Even though it's not an illusion, but it's like an illusion, because the appearance and the way mode of existence just is not same. There is a deception in the appearance. Yeah. So if we can remind ourselves throughout the day, everything that we hear, everything we see, everything we smell, everything we eat, everything we touch, all the time is like a dream state. It is like an illusion. Of course, we are saying like it is like an illusion, but inside, if we believe it is real, then of course it does not have strong impact. But if you really feel from your heart it is really like an illusion, it's really like a dream, then definitely emotionally we will be less affected. If you see like an illusion, like beautiful object, you will have a less strong grasping, intense grasping. If there is appearance of illusion, like a what do you call unpleasant persons or situation, then you will have less disliking or less intense disliking, aversion and anger and so forth. And so therefore, so in that way, during the meditation, we try to meditate on emptiness. So normally they talk about two types of meditation. Meditation on emptiness, space like meditation, space like emptiness, and illusion like emptiness. A space like emptiness, we meditate on mere emptiness, which is mere absence of truly inherent existence. And illusion like meditation, then during the post session, then we remind ourselves all of that, all of this is like illusions. And so, then as if you don't have a good understanding of the if we don't have the good understanding of the emptiness, then even we try to remind ourselves illusion like illusions or like a dream, still it will not be so effective. But if we have good understanding of emptiness, then this statement and this understanding like illusion, like dream, has much more strong impact in ourselves, especially with our emotions, dealing with the emotions. And of course, as I mentioned, it is not natural at the moment. There can come a point through when our practice gets better and better, where naturally it appears like that. Yeah.
Geshe, I'm just trying to relate these ideas to everyday life. So, for example, our current political scene, or like if you're in a group of people and you see someone doing something like hurting a child or hurting an animal, that you know is actually causing harm.
Mm-hmm.
And your mind is going, this is an illusion, this is like an illusion, this is like an illusion. But something has to move you into taking action to oppose the wrongdoing.
Yes,
Usually that's emotion.
mm-hmm.
It's recognition that it's wrong, but actually your sense of wanting to do what's right and stop what's harmful comes in. So please help me with that chain of thinking where you're maintaining awareness, this is illusion, but you still have to move into action.
First of all, we have to not only think it is an illusion, you have to think, illusion-like persons is harming illusion-like persons. And
Really?
illusion-like person is perceiving that, okay?
Really?
Yeah, all of us, we have to not only just see one part illusion, the other part real, All of them like illusion. The person who is harming is like illusions. The person who is receiving harm is like illusion. The act of harming itself like illusion. The person who is perceiving that all of that happening is like illusions. Your own mind which is disturbed is like illusions. All of them like illusions, and there is a drama happening in the illusions.
And your actions to remedy the situation are also illusions?
Illusions. So then you have to take illusion-like actions to remedy that. So your illusion-like action might be, trying to stop without being upset.
So in this sense, illusion, in English, usually illusion means make-believe. It's not real. But in this sense, illusion means appearance. It's just the appearance of.
Not just appearance, but the appearance which is not true to how things exist. Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah. So, even in illusions, let's say magicians creating some illusion or tricks, even that we want to, we get affected, Even in the movie we get affected, depending on character, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad. Even though it's a movie, still we get affected. Dream, even we know dream is not true, but still you want to have a good dream, not a nightmare. Isn't it? All of them are dream. Whether you have a bad dream or good dream, it's just a dream, not really, but still it affects us. Nightmare affect us, And nice dream affect us in a different ways. And so therefore, even when we see like illusion like this, doesn't mean that everything's stopped. It affect. Illusion like harm. When someone like illusion like person act into illusion like harm to something, someone, then it harms both the persons. It harms both the illusion like person, the victim and perpetrator. They both, it harms illusion, even though it is illusional, but it harms. So therefore, if there is any action that we can take to stop that, then we should take it, but without being so personal and so upset about that, about towards that persons and their actions. So it doesn't mean to why when we train to, because when you see like when we train to see like illusion, then it becomes less personal and less concrete. And so even though you might be annoyed that not so strong and intense, even you might be upset, but it will be not so intense and so strong. And slowly, even that, slowly, not even, so then learning to not be affected by the dream, whether it's good or bad. Learning to not to be affected by whether the trick of magician, whether good or bad. Not being affected by the movie, whether good or bad. Same way, again, we learn to slowly, with the practice, we learn not to be affected, even on a small, subtle level. But at the very beginning, we start with a very, not being affected on a very intense, strong level. And when we are able to see it is like an illusion, then just by that being able to see it, it helps to reduce that. Yes.
Thank you.
So when you say like not being affected, is like, so you don't create marks on your consciousness or karma, like what we say, like, because all this, whatever we cling like or we affected by it, that creates a strong memory on our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do this way, then it's more like so we are not desiring certain output, but we do our action on our part, but out of unattachment, non-attachment, or at least not very much, like at least remain, I don't know how to explain this. So
Yeah, definitely. The point is, if we see someone being engaged in something harmful actions, whether it's one individual or whether it's a whole country or whole world, whatever, while we can disagree with that, while we can see it is harmful, there should be sudden action be taken to stop such harmful actions, but at the same time not being upset and angry. That is the key. We can take the same actions to stop such action without being upset and angry. If possible, with love and compassion. If not with love and compassion, it's at least our mind being more calm, stable. And if we do that, then it is, our mind is not upset, so therefore we don't suffer. If my mind is upset, then I suffer. And then also, when my mind is upset, then even whatever action I take, most likely it will be more mistake likely to make. When I'm more calm, the action I take will be more better to see long-term, short-term, and all of that. And also, I don't create new negative karma. Yeah. So then we don't create new negative karma. So it helps in many different levels by not being affected in a negative way in terms of being upset and angry about that whole thing.
and so we can maintain more positive mental states and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you are not upset and angry, definitely we can maintain much more positive state of mind. Definitely. So then, transforming the adverse circumstances into path to the enlightenment is the third. With the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, transform adverse circumstances in the path to the enlightenment. Mm. So when we are when we are faced and when we're encountering a lot of challenges, difficult adversity situations, whether it is due to environment, whether it is due to sentient beings, whatever, when we are filled with that, lot of time, we become overwhelmed by that. Lot of time, we are very sad, upset due to all of that, and our mind become very negative. And by becoming negative, upset, and sad, overwhelmed by all of that, it doesn't help the situations. It doesn't make the situation more lighter, better. It only kind of make our life more miserable. Whatever situation happens. But on top of that, then we are creating more extra suffering, pain on our emotional level, mental level, not being able to deal with it in a positive way. So it is about learning how to deal with that in positively. And that is all about. If we can do that, then we can learn to accept good, bad, everything positive. Doesn't good things happen, you are happy. Bad things happen, also you can deal with it positively, not being so negatively affected. And so that is where it is. And so this is the how we should train to do that, and by looking from many perspectives. Yeah. So in terms of that, then there is three kind of subdivisions. In terms of transforming by depending on conventional bodhicitta, then ultimate bodhicitta, and then particular actions. Mm. Yeah, the sequences can change here and there. So, apply meditation immediately at every opportunity, and the supreme. So when that happens, then we try to. So trying to apply immediately the meditations, and suddenly, we have um, faced with health issues, physical health issues, for example, you know, instead of feeling um, so overwhelmed by that and so much aversion towards that, because when you have aversions and you cannot escape it, it becomes more painful. Any situations that you do not want and you have aversion to, and we try to escape it, but when you are unable to escape from that, the more stronger aversion you have, the more stronger you don't want, the more painful it is when you are unable to do that. And we have that kind of aversions, we have that kind of not wanting, because we see that as something unwanted, unpleasant. Okay? And so here, if we can change perspective and see something that as something positive, then we might not have strong disliking and strong aversions. If you don't have strong aversion and strong disliking, then it will be, you can manage it more with much betterness. And so by seeing, all this is by me experiencing this, I am purifying a lot of negative karma so that I don't have the result of that in the future. So, rejoicing instead of feeling so overwhelmed by that, but actually rejoicing that, because even though it is little bit discomfort, and in some cases very, very much discomfort, unpleasant, but then it is serving a very, very big job, purifying so many negative karmas by experiencing that. And as one of the Dhamma master says, all our Dhamma practice is to purify negative karma. So by experiencing that, we are purifying negative karma. By seeing that, you can rejoice it. Of course, I think for us, at the very beginning, it's almost impossible. But if we start with small, we learn to do that with small things, which we can manage. When it's too big, then it's so difficult to rejoice and feel. But when small, we learn to do it small. When you have small, discomfort of coldness, when you have small discomfort of heat, hot, when you are still discomfort of not getting the food exactly what you like, all of that, those are small. But even with that, we learn to do that. We learn to kind of, have more patience with that, and then we learn to see them as a way to purify. And if we train that slowly, then slowly, even the big things, even the big place, then because of our training, we can be able to deal with that in the same way. I mean, So by seeing it as not as something positive, and the way we see positive is by experiencing that we are clearing so many negative karma, so we don't have to deal with that. Clearing all negative karma, so much of negative karma, by seeing that. So then you see something meaning in that. Also by seeing, no matter how unpleasant it is, it's the nature of impermanent. This will also pass. it will not last forever. Cannot be same situation, even though it feel at the moment this is how it's going to be whole. But then, the reality, the fact is nothing is impermanent. The sickness, whatever situation, is impermanent. So it has to change, whether you wish or not. It's the nature. The storm will pass. The storm is very devastating, but it will not last forever. It's a matter of time before that storm pass by. The tornado is a devastating, but again, so whatever situations that we are encountering is like the devastating tornado, devastating storm, but again, knowing that it will pass, so that we don't be too overwhelmed by that. Not be too overwhelmed by that. Seeing that this is the way to us to learn, to grow and learn. Because without the suffering, sometimes it's hard for us to know what is happiness. Without having go through some kind of, some difficulties, it is hard to appreciate our life. Only when we go through some difficulty, then we begin to appreciate. When we have some health crisis, then we begin to appreciate what it is like to be healthy. Otherwise, being healthy is nothing. We don't appreciate it. We take for granted. And there is no joy in being healthy. Nothing. But then when we are not healthy, then it reminds us, And same with every situation. It's another is a wake up call. To wake up call. We are sleeping, and now it is kind of waking up you. So seeing positive from all of that. And then also seeing, that situation itself is like illusions. So then we don't hold on that, grasp on that so tightly. If you don't hold and grasp too tightly, then it becomes less painful. When you hold and grasp very tightly, it becomes more painful. Also, like as we mentioned this morning, by your own situations, then you are reminded, of your own pain. Through your understanding your own pain with your own experience, then we see there are many others. I am not only one. There are so many others who are experiencing similar and much more worse. And through that, we also understand and relate with others' pain and suffering. And through that, we cultivate a love and compassion for them. And then through that, then we can do, by me experiencing whatever pain that I'm going through, may they be free from their pain. May they don't have to experience the pain. May I be able to experience on behalf of them. May I be able to take on their suffering, pain on myself. And then on top of that, if you can, then you can do Tonglen, taking their suffering and cause of suffering, and giving them all your happiness, the virtues. So when you do that, then it gives you, kind of satisfaction because you have been able to use this unpleasant situation to develop your practice. You know, it was unpleasant, but it helped me to develop loving kindness, compassion. I was able to use it, and so you see, there's some meaning in that, positive meaning in that. On one hand, it is a little bit discomforting, unpleasant, but on the other hand, it helped you to develop your practice. It helped you to do compassion, and then practice atonement. And when you see that, then you have less disliking towards that. When you see something positive in that, you have a less disliking, less aversions. And when you have less disliking, less aversions, even you are faced with that, you don't experience so much pain emotionally, mentally. And when again, it's not easy for us, especially when situation is big. Maybe when it's small, we might be able to do that. But we have to train to do that all the time. When you do that, when you get good at that, even when the big situation happens, then you can apply and become effective. So many examples. Lama Sopa Rinpoche, for example, when he had a stroke, his reaction is totally opposite of the way we react. Most ordinary people, when you find you have stroke and your half of your body cannot move, you will feel devastated. Just the thought that you will have to live that all your life. But in his cases, it was funny, even when he was trying to move his hand, he couldn't move it and was laughing and laughing and laughing. It's like a joke. Like trying to rest, but couldn't rest, and laughing and laughing and laughing. Response was totally opposite. And then, I heard immediately, of course, when he was in hospital, his immediate reactions, response, that, and then praying for all the patients inside the hospitals. He wasn't praying for himself. He was praying for all sense, especially for the patients who are in the hospital. So that is how it is when you have trained yourself. You are not overwhelmed by your situations, even it is such a not easy. Instead of overwhelmed by your own well-being, your own concerns, you have concern for others who are sick and actually praying for them. And such response can only come only someone has done the practice in their life, all their life, over the years. Ordinary being will not be able to respond like that immediately. Constant practice can lead to such response. And I also heard a story of another Lama, Geshe Lama Kuncho. said, one of the summer in Nepal, in Kopan, he was coming by the stairs, and because of the rain, the stair was wet, and he slipped, and he banged. And he felt a great joy. That seems unlikely, isn't it, to us? You fall down, and instead of being upset and angry and blaming someone, not putting a sign there, or maybe the step is too small, maybe there's nothing to order, so all the blame that we could come with, why we fall, all the possibility is, and very upset, or upset with yourself, or upset with someone. Great bliss. The reason he felt great bliss, he said, in that very moment he felt, whether that is the case or what, he felt that he was taking on all the obstacles of Lama Sopa on him. The falling, by him falling, he's taking all the obstacles of Lama Sopa. And because he felt he's taking all the obstacles of his teachers and gurus, of someone, he felt it was worthwhile. It was pleasant, meaningful to fall. Whether he really took the obstacle, that is another kind of matter. Who can say? I don't know. But he felt he was taking on his obstacles. And therefore, just by feeling that, he felt that falling was meaningful. And so therefore there was joy in that. And such immediate response like that can only come if you have practice. When you have practice throughout your life, with a small situation to bigger situation, then when something like that happens, then you can have that kind of immediate response, immediate positive response. And that is a sign of the practices that they have done. So in that way, we apply meditation immediately in every opportunity. Whenever we are faced with any kind of difficulties, we try to apply in that way. And then Supreme Method is accompanied by the 4 practices, which require a little bit more explanation. Then maybe we'll stop here for today. Okay. So then we'll do the dedications. So due to all the virtues that oneself and others have created, may the Dharma flourish, and all the holy beings, such as His Holy Lama, Kyabje Lama Soparam, all the holy beings have long, healthy life, their wishes be fulfilled, and may each and every sentient being be able to actualize and fully develop loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, wisdom realizing emptiness, and thereby actualizing the full potential, fully awakened state for the benefit of all sentient beings. And may there always be peace, harmony, tolerance in the world, and may all the people think of, or all the sentient beings, all the think of helping and benefiting each other. Gyavadi nyuto talama sangye tukyo ne towa chi kya malupa te sala kwe pa sho chancho sencho rinpoche ma ke pa na ke kyo kewa nyamba me bayam, konde kondu pewa sho, kandi rawe kowe shinkande, pendan dewa malu chungwe ne, shere sewa tinzen kya soye, shabe sede patu tenkyo che, tuzu changshin jamgun jawe, ten zin jong pewe kunzo tobo zu. Choson kuwe le ma tu ju, pa da so du je guen du shapten. Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.